Tuesday. It is October 24th, the 297th day of the year. There's 68 days left in 2023, and welcome to another edition of Tuesdays with Thom. Now, those of you who know me know that I am a movie buff. I love a good movie. Killers of the Flower Moon, new in the theaters, definitely is a good film. First of all, it's a compelling story. Based on true events, it tells a story in the 1920s. Members of the Osage Native American tribe of Osage County, Oklahoma, are mysteriously murdered after oil is found on their land and the FBI decides to investigate. If you like good acting, it's got it. Leonardo DiCaprio should probably get nominated for an Oscar. There's also Robert De Niro and Lily Gladstone. They're excellent. Check it out. Oh, it's a Martin Scorsese film, which means it's long. 3 hours and 26 minutes, but believe me, I think it's worth it. Our G-list guest today is Nichelle Gainey. She's a well-known international businesswoman. She has an extensive background in electronic media, multimedia platforms, international professional sports, and artificial intelligence and sports biomedics. She's the founder, chairman, and chief executive officer of Silverstone International, a global sports management and entertainment consulting firm. We look forward to talking with Nichelle today. Where am I here? Our show today, of course, is sponsored by the Best Girl consulting firm. Let's hear from Best Girl.
Best Girl is a consulting firm that provides customized leadership, access and inclusion, public relations, communications, and organizational consulting services. Clients include Fortune 500 companies, utilities, higher education institutions, small businesses, and associations. Best Girl's team of consultants, led by Joyce Gilly-Gossam, Emily Hedrick, and Sean Jones, partners with business and education clients to promote organizational effectiveness, communication, motivation, and leadership, with always an impact on the bottom line. Best Girl's customized consulting services include strategic planning, corporate communication, executive coaching, fundraising, and economic development.
Best Girl customizes the solution that fits your needs. So let's get to our roundtable regulars and talk with Barbara Wallace-Edwards and Michael Walker. Good morning, Barbara Wallace-Edwards. How are you?
Good morning, Thom. I'm doing well, thank you. How are you today?
I'm doing very well. What's going on in your world?
Well, Thom, there's a couple of things that I wanted to talk about this morning. One is one of our favorite banks, Wells Fargo, is back in the news again. Customers at Wells Fargo are reportedly seeing erroneous withdrawals hit their accounts again. Concerns over unexplained withdrawals tagged as debit card pending corrections began circulating on social media about a week ago, with thousands of people calling the bank out saying that some of their accounts have gone into negative balances as a result of these changes. Wow. And Wells Fargo has no explanation for it. People are still waiting for their money to be put back into their account.
Wow,
I think this is maybe the third time this has happened in the last year.
At least. I think, and you or Michael can correct me. Michael, you can come on there. Wells Fargo used to be South Trust, didn't it?
Yes.
Wasn't it?
No.
That's why
Wells Fargo it started out as First Atlanta, and then it was First Union, and it became Wells Fargo. I don't know. I think
they bought out South Trust though as well. I think they merged with something. They are the same bank now, because I had accounts there and I had some problems with them and ended up closing my accounts after they became Wells Fargo.
Damn, Wells Fargo, that's bad.
Yeah. That was 16 years ago, and they're still having problems. So,
well, they are all changing.
Maybe it's artificial intelligence that's doing that. That's why they can't figure it out.
It may be, but for certain times,
way back in the day, was BT&B. They were based in Birmingham, and Birmingham Trust National Bank. I started banking with them in the 6th grade. In the 6th grade, we had student banking, homeroom banking. In homeroom, you could bank on Thursday. You could put a little money in the bank or whatever. And Started saving money in the 6th grade. I
Wow.
don't have any of it now, but I started saving it in the 6th grade.
That's when you had your little passbook. Then when you go up there and they write it in your little passbook.
Yes,
Exactly.
yes, a long time ago. But they
That's
don't
right.
teach that in schools anymore, Thom. That
I
those are
don't.
the type of life skills that these students
You,
need.
yeah,
And they just
you
they've
think.
moved away from that.
You would think maybe I don't know. There's probably some liability somewhere, and
Maybe
somebody
so.
didn't want to deal with it. Back then we didn't worry about the liability of everything that went on. So,
Right.
anyway, Barbara, go ahead.
I also want to offer congratulations to the Las Vegas Aces. They won their second WNBA title last week, beating the New York Liberty for the 2023 WNBA championship. So congratulations to those ladies.
And what's your coach name?
Now that I don't know, Thom.
Becky Hammond.
Becky
Okay.
Hammonds. Becky Hammonds will probably be the first woman coach in the NBA. I think when Pop retires, she'll probably end up being coach of the Spurs. She's won 2 championships now, and
Yes.
She also won the Summer League championship one year, coaching the men. And so I wouldn't be surprised if she doesn't end up being the head coach of the San Antonio Spurs at some point.
Now, that would be so cool.
Yeah. We guess. We guess. We'll see.
Hey, Michaela, Michael's daughter may end up being a head coach in the
She could
NBA
very
one day.
well.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
She could very well.
Knowing her, she probably wouldn't want to do that.
Really?
Yeah. She's kind of traditional. I don't think she would want to do that.
Where is she now, Michael? She's assistant coach at
Arizona State University.
Okay.
Yeah. She, the reason why I say that, she is kind of she's kind of traditional, and she kind of look at things from a different point of view. And what I mean by that, I remember when she was in high school, and her high school coach had myself and her brother and another friend scrimmage some of the girls on the varsity team. Mm-hmm. And so, Michaela sat out. He didn't want her to play, didn't want her to get hurt. And so this girl that's on her team said she was going to guard me. And Michaela looked at it and said, that's not a good idea. Just because he's my dad and you think he's old, he's not the average old guy. And another time they were talking about how good girls are and them playing against guys and beating guys. And she said, that's not going to happen. Let's don't get carried away. So that's why I say I'm not so sure she would fall for that. She kind of understands the difference in the two sexes. Mm-hmm. She doesn't believe the hype.
Gotcha. Okay.
So let me say good morning to Jerry Lynn and Raymond. Raymond, how are you, man? Antley, Lori, Marvin, Sturfon is with us this morning. And so good morning to all you guys and ladies. Michael, what you got for us?
Well, I got a couple things. One thing, though, I think we haven't mentioned it on the show, but, the war between Israel and Hamas over there, there's a lot of things that's going on that are just atrocious. But one thing that I think we need to keep in mind, I know that the Biden administration is working to get people like Americans out of Israel over there. But ironically, there are Americans that are trapped in Gaza at the same time. And those people are not getting the same type of rescue treatment thus far. CBS interviewed a couple from LA. The woman is American. Her husband is Palestinian, and they are trapped in Gaza. They went over to visit her husband's family. And so they are there with their 4 kids and what have you. And they are trying to, keep the kids calm and what have you. They're also trying to provide water and food to them. And she just said that they're not getting the same type of effort in Gaza to release the Americans, where they are working on the Israel side. So, and that's something that I haven't heard much on the news. So just kind of keep those people in mind and what have you.
Yes.
And speaking about war and people, Putin, the villain. I found this is kind of
war and people.
Right.
What you
You
say?
said war and people.
War
But
and
go,
people.
go ahead.
I said war, and I said Putin,
Oh, Putin.
the villain.
Okay.
Okay.
Turns out Putin had a cardiac arrest on Sunday. Suffered a heart attack in one of his homes, and they had to take him to the hospital and work on it. And they tried to keep it hush hush, but the doctor finally said it was cardiac arrest. They found him lying on the floor with his eyes rolling back and what have you. Putin is 71 years old. He's been rumored to have.
How old is he, Michael? Say it again. I'm
71. 71.
Okay.
He's been rumored to have some issues. But what I found interesting is that the rest of the story talked about some of Putin's media events and going to visit. And they even said that when he went to visit North Korea, he had a body double. And a lot of these appearances has been a person that's a lookalike and stuff. But recently they've had a malfunction with the facial structure. The jawbones have been floating in this guy. And so they've had to pull him out of commission to try to patch him up a little bit so he can go stand in for Putin.
Oh, the body double had some trouble.
Yeah.
Wait a minute, jawbone is floating.
Yeah, I guess they try to make his cheeks to look like Putin. You know how Putin has that kind of pan face with high cheekbones and stuff. So they were trying to resemble that, and they're saying that they're kind of moving around a little bit in there and stuff. So they had to pull him out of commission. So I found that hilarious.
Yeah,
he had a facial recognition malfunction.
Well, we see.
Oh, interesting.
Oh man. So what's happening with Coach Prime? We hadn't heard anything from Coach Prime here in the last few days.
They were off this past
Alpha
week.
Commercials.
They didn't have a game this past weekend, so maybe that's why you hadn't heard anything this past week.
Okay.
So things will pick up again this week, I'm sure. They're back in action again this Saturday.
Coach Prime been laying down the law. He made a comment that, I guess he gave the guys time off because they had a bye week. He said, if you're late coming back, your lockers will be cleaned out.
Yeah, he said if they're 1 minute late, they're off the team. He said they walk in 1 minute late, the lockers will be empty.
I understand.
Yeah.
Coach Jordan used to tell us that if he said be there at 3:15, it was 3:15 by his watch. He didn't care what nobody else's watch said. He said, I don't care what that clock on the Sanford Tower says. The only thing that counts is my watch. So you better be here. You better get here early to make sure you ain't late.
Coach Prime laying down the law.
Yeah, he is. Coach Prime's getting off on those commercials with Coach Saban.
Oh, yes.
Yeah,
oh, yes.
They're pretty funny. And speaking of coaches, there are a lot of questions about Auburn coaching staff, and I shouldn't say the staff, in particularly the offensive coordinator, Philip Montgomery. And I keep reading these articles, and a couple of them just didn't make any sense. My favorite coach, Gus Malzahn, the luckiest man in the world, he lost to Oklahoma over the weekend. He did some of those same bonehead plays he used to do with us, and now UCF is calling for him to be fired.
Oh no!
Really?
Yes. It was a situation against Oklahoma, and it was pretty close to my surprise.
Right.
It was so funny. I was watching the game, and somebody asked me, they said, well, why are you watching UCF in Oklahoma? I said, I want to see UCF lose. I want to see Gus lose. That's why I'm watching it. And he didn't let me down. He lost it. After being up like 20-7 or some stuff, he lost it.
The last I looked, the score was tied 17-17. I think that may have been at the half or something. So how did they lose the game, Mike?
And then he went up, hey, Gus did what Gus does.
Now, let me ask, so why did he's at Central Florida, right?
Yes, but they're going to join the Big 12.
Okay, so that's why they played Oklahoma. I was just curious as to why they were playing Oklahoma.
Yeah, so Gus pulled out a bonehead play, one of these going for two type things where he throwing it out to the sideline. He loved that east-west sideline pass and stuff, and
he does
Oklahoma
that.
Snuffed it out and dropped him, so they ended up losing the game. So people were saying, fire Gus, get rid of him and stuff like that. And this guy, he wrote an article saying, Gus may be out of a job soon at Central Florida. Should Auburn bring Gus back as offensive coordinator? I'm like, you just didn't have anything to write about to say
Nothing
that.
else. Yeah.
He was
looking for controversy, Michael. That's what that was. He just
pulling
his
stuff,
articles.
But I did see an article this morning that made me go, where they said, well, first of all, they said, should Auburn had hired Cadillac because he had the offense playing with enthusiasm and really laying it out. And then he said, no, I think that Hugh Freeze will do well by Auburn in the long term. That's the best hire. But should Auburn get rid of Philip Montgomery and elevate Cadillac to offensive coordinator?
Now, that would be a good move, I think.
And, that may not be bad.
Right.
Especially from the standpoint with his acumen of running the football and understanding. Because if you recall last year, the running backs really did well. And now Philip Montgomery has taken over the offense and what have you. And I think that has limited some of Cadillac's input to the offensive game plan. I'm not sure, but I wouldn't be opposed to that idea. We've had plenty of guys that played on the offensive side of the ball, and the fact that, Cadillac played in the NFL, he probably understands how to attack different defenses. And quite honestly, I don't think that would be a bad move to put him in there. He can't do any worse than Philip Montgomery's doing.
Well, okay, you want me to say something. I'll say something. Our offense is not good. And I don't understand if Robbie is red zone Robbie, why when we get in the red zone, the other guy's running the ball? Why the other guy's even in the game? I don't understand it. So I think there may be that guy, whoever he is that wrote the article, may not be the only one that feels that our offense definitely needs some juice. We need some juice. And I've said this to you. I think Robbie played better last year. I think it's in his head now. You can get in the kid's head, man. Telling him to me, one of the things I don't think is a good thing to do to a kid that you're coaching is to tell him what he can't do. And you can't pass, so we won't let you pass. We'll let him. Well, if you tell him he can't pass, he's not going to be able to pass because it's in his head. He's thinking the whole time instead of playing. And in order to play, man, you got to feel comfortable. Right. You got to be able to sling that thing down the field. And and the other thing is, if you throw the ball north and south, if you throw it 40 yards down the field and they intercept it, okay, it's a punt. But if you're throwing it sideline to sideline, man, that's always scary because if they intercept it, it's a pick six. And,
that's true. So absolutely.
Anyway, I don't know. I do think that the offense is hurting. It's hurting bad.
I agree
it's the first year for Coach Freeze, so I think everybody agrees that he's going to be the good coach that Auburn needs. But the offense is hurt. It's hurt. Well,
that's true. And, and Philip Montgomery he was brought in because he understood running RPOs, but I haven't really seen many RPOs, run pass option plays. And especially, and going back to your point, if you're going to run that type of offense, you need a dynamic person at quarterback. Think about Auburn's quarterback under Nick Marshall when they ran the RPOs. Think about Auburn's offense under Cam Newton. And we know Cam was of another world, but
Superman.
still, you had somebody dynamic as a trigger man. And even with Jared Stidham was not the dynamic runner that Cam nor Nick Marshall was, but he was deceptive, and he knew when to run and when to pull it and trigger the ball. So I haven't seen that with Thorne yet. I think he's really kind of slow. I think he's a little bit too slow to try to run that RPO, like that sideline run he had against Georgia when he pulled it and ran. Damn, he was running pretty slow down there. No wonder he didn't make a touchdown. Come on, man. He was slow.
I didn't realize that other people were talking about it.
Oh, yes.
I didn't.
It's all over social media.
Is it about the offense?
Yes, about the offensive coordinator.
Yeah.
Okay. So, well, I can only say, from my opinion, it's warranted, because it's not good.
I agree. Here's the thing: if you can sit there and watch Auburn play, and you notice that when number 9 comes in, the offense seems to pick up. They make moves in a positive direction, and then when number 1 comes in, it slows down, it bogs down. It doesn't take a genius to figure out number 9 needs to be in there, no matter what you're doing.
And when number 9 gets you down in the red zone, you take him out and you put number 1 in there.
At one point, he was red zone Robbie.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Well, you know how that is. Yeah. Okay, come on, Thom. Look, man, come on, man. He was getting too much hype because he was red zone Robbie. Yeah. Okay, so they had to go and show that Thorne could do the same thing. That's all it was.
But he can't, and we lose the game. That's the problem right there.
But I'm just telling you, the student section gave him the nickname Red Zone Robbie. He scored 3 touchdowns in the first game in the red zone. So now you get in the red zone and you put Thorne in there to say Thorne can do everything because he ran over Sanford. Thom, you and I can go out there and run over Sanford and look good now. Come on, man.
Michael, I can run over Sanford. I've never played a down in football ever. So
come on. They start trying to make him look like he was real good because he ran for 107 yards, 128 yards against Sanford. Sanford? Really? Okay.
Well, let's see. So let's see. Auburn's got what? Mississippi State.
And we're favored against Mississippi State.
So we got Mississippi State, Vanderbilt,
Arkansas,
New Mexico State, Arkansas, Alabama. How many more games we got?
5.
About 5 games.
Yes.
We're sitting here.
What's the record? 3 and 4.
3 and 4. Yes.
3 and 4.
We got 5 games left, so they got a chance.
They can
to have a winning season. Yeah. Well, they say you can go to bowl games, you win 6 wins. I don't know that.
It may be the Birmingham Bowl, but I think they can go to a bowl game if they win 6 games.
Do you want to go to a bowl game if you only win 6 games? I guess is the question. And in my 4 years, we were 10-1, 10-2, 9-2, and then one year we were 6-6, and we went to the Sun Bowl, and nobody wanted to go.
Wow!
But we went, and we lost.
Did you
win? No. Well, I will. Let me say this though: we got ahead at halftime. Coach Jerk decided he'd do a squib kick right before the half, and our guy did his version of a squib kick, kicked it right to the Missouri guy. He caught it and ran it back for a touchdown.
Oh no! Was that your senior year, Thom?
That
wasn't your senior year.
That was junior year.
Wow.
So
I guess he was channeling his inner Gus Malzahn.
Yeah, he may have. He was channeling somebody. Well, you guys got anything else?
I have one other story that's very inspirational. 6 homeless sisters are becoming nurses all at the same time.
Wow.
There was a story about a family, and evidently they had 7 girls. Poor fellow. he and his wife, unfortunately, right around 2013 or somewhere thereafter, they fell on hard times and they lost their home. And they were evicted. And, the sisters were moving from one family to another, relatives and friends and stuff taking them in. And he told them he didn't want their situation to hinder their ability to get their GED and to get their education. He understand how difficult things were, but they needed to stick together as a family and set their goals. So the 6 oldest sisters, they got their GED and then went on, and they're graduating from nursing school. And they're saying, this is not the end. They want to go further. And I think that is just a remarkable story, to be homeless and you still are able to get your GED. And not only that, graduate from nursing school, all 6 of them at the same time. Right. So wow, that's an inspiring story.
Very inspirational.
That's great.
Yeah.
A little uplift this morning.
Absolutely.
In spite of
you know how I do. I take you down, I bring you back up.
And then you bring us back up, we understand. Anything else for you guys?
Well, I just want to say I offer our condolences to friends of Tuesdays with Thom, Barbara and Thom Larkin. Tom's brother passed away on Sunday night, so offer our condolences and prayers to them, and also condolences to the family of Ron Mims. Ron served as an employee of the Birmingham Waterworks for many years, and then served as chairman of the board for the Birmingham Waterworks for many years, and passed away. And his funeral services are today. So condolences and thoughts and prayers for both of those families.
I saw Ron's picture. We did some work for them. And,
okay.
Yeah,
wow.
he was.
Yes.
He was a good guy as far as I knew.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Sorry to hear that.
Yes.
Anything else? Okay, well, let's go to Sean. I think she's got a minute for us.
Everyone joining in with us. My name is Shantia Jones, and this is Got a Minute. It's Tuesday morning, and I feel good. I look good. I dance good. I am good. And you want to know who else felt the same way? The godfather of soul, the father of funk, Mr. Dynamite, Mr. James Brown himself, a prolific singer, songwriter, and band leader, as well as one of the most iconic figures in funk and soul music. Mr. Brown began his professional career at a time when rock and roll was opening new opportunities for Black artists to connect with white audiences. But the path he took to fame did not pass through Top 40 radio or through the Ed Sullivan Show in American Bandstand. James Brown would make his appearance in all those places eventually, but only after a decade spent performing almost exclusively before Black audiences and earning his reputation as the hardest working man in show business. On October 24th, 1962, he took a major step toward his eventual crossover and conquest of the mainstream with an electrifying performance on Black America's most famous stage. A performance recorded and later released as Live at the Apollo, the first breakthrough album of James Brown's career. Having failed to convince the head of his label, King Records, to record and release the performance as a live album, James Brown, a man who was famously wise to the value of $1, financed the Apollo recording himself. In the end, the Apollo crowd was in the state of rupture. Released in 1963, Live at the Apollo ended up spending almost 66 weeks on the Billboard album chart and selling upwards 1 million copies, giving James Brown his first smash hit album and setting him on the course of his incredible crossover success in the mid-1960s and beyond. You can also catch Get On Up, the James Brown story, on Netflix. Thank you all for joining in. My name is Shantia Jones, and this has Got a Minute.
Thank you, Sean. Hey, if you want to see James Brown, you should. If you go on the internet, you can look up James Brown and Pavarotti, the Italian singer, and they sing a song together, and it's absolutely awesome. It really is. James Brown, and you know how he talking. Pavarotti singing James Brown. That's my man right there. That's my man. You know? And he was also in the Rumble in the Jungle. Muhammad Ali's fight with George Foreman. In the documentary, James Brown flies over with him on the plane with Don King and all the guys. And Don King goes off on one of his riffs. And James Brown said, that brother's saying something. So he didn't say what he was saying, but he was saying something. Anyway, let's to our genius guest, Nichelle Gainey. Nichelle Gainey is a well-known international businesswoman. She has an extensive background in electronic media, multimedia platforms, international professional sports, and artificial intelligence and sports barometrics. She is the founder, chairman, and chief executive officer of Silverstone International, LLC, a global sports management and entertainment consulting firm. And I could go on and on, but I'm going to let Nichelle tell about herself. Nichelle, good morning. How are you? I hope you're doing well. Oh, I can't hear you.
Just on mute.
You're on mute.
Yeah, she's on mute. Can you hear me? If you hear me, you're on mute.
I said, I have enjoyed, yes, I have enjoyed listening to you guys this morning. I said, you have quick wit, informative information, and you're talking about all my sweet spots this morning. So
I tell you what, why don't we let you just join in and start talking about one of your sweet spots, and we'll go from there. How about that?
Yeah, let's go for it. Let's go.
Okay.
You know, so I'm just happy that you guys have invited me on your show. Of course, you've already did my introduction. I will just tell you some things that are not on there. I am a military brat. I was raised by parents who raised their sons to be saluted and daughters to be respected. So all three of my brothers are commissioned officers. 2 are currently serving in the capacity of generals. And so they make the second pair of generals, but the only pair of brothers currently serving in critical areas in our armed forces. So when you start talking about Palestine, I have a brother that's the Big Red One. I have a brother that's in air defense. So they're all on the cutting lines of information that's happening. And so I'm honored to be a part of a family that gave its debt and its respect, as well as its sacrifices to help us live in a greater and safer nation.
Did you consider being in the military as well?
I did. I thought I was going to go in the Army and be a medical doctor, so when you spend your whole life on a military base, born on a base, went to all your middle school on the base, and then we had to go to high school where we then started to mix with people who were different. Well, of course they thought we were different because in the military, there's a lot of structure. And so one of the things that growing up, one of the most important things we had to do, number one, get up early. And the first thing we had to do is make sure our bed is made. And I still carry that on years later. I still do the same thing. The first thing I do is make up a bed because I feel like I completed a task for today.
Right.
I do the same. I mean, my mom was, when you got up, you had to make up your bed. You know?
Yes.
And I'll tell you what, a funny quick story. Our son never liked to make up his bed, and he just, what do I need to do that for? I'm just gonna get back in it, so on and so forth. Well, he went to the Air Force, and we got to go visit him in San Antonio. And we went in where they were staying, and boy, you couldn't find a wrinkle in that bed. I mean, that thing, it was so neat. Just because somebody got that message over to him.
I agree. My father would always say, you got 2 places, the military or college, you choose. So we never had to deal with where we were going to go. It was just instilling us that, those were our choices. And so fortunately enough, I chose to go to college.
And you speak German?
I do. I do.
Are you?
And my brothers do. And, it was so interesting when when I lived in Germany and when I moved to the US, we were teased about having an accent. And so when you think about that early on, we try to do everything we could to get rid of that, that accent. And it's so funny that I look at it now and I was like, you know, we have so many gifts. And then and I always say what separate us are differences, right? Sometimes everyone wants to go along, but the differences is what makes us unique and gives us the beauty of our identity. And as I am older, I realize that now that I wish I had embraced that as I move on in life, because now I travel internationally. And so one of my biggest things that, strong points for me is that I was able to communicate when I was asked to work on my first World Cup, and that was in Germany in 2006.
Oh, wow. I know Barbara and Michael want to ask you a question, but tell us what you did on the World Cup, and then let them ask questions.
Okay. Go ahead.
Tell us what you did on the World Cup. I'm just interested.
When I first got assigned, so my background goes way back to NCAA. I'm about to date myself, Barbara. Back when, back when my ambition was to be an orthopedic surgeon. And so I had an opportunity to do some other things and had a career change of paths when I lost my father. I was a daddy's girl. So I thought, I wanted to do something different. I think people know when you lose someone that's close to you, you kind of spin out of control a little bit, and then you start looking for other things to fit in. So I was accepted to medical school, but I also decided to take on and do something with the NCAA, and worked along with Miles Brand's team in helping build a multi-digital media platform that I think you could recognize today was the onstart of what people see in the Final Four, which is now $1 billion package when you look at it together. And that's when we're talking about revenue sharing, how colleges benefit, and taking those risks. And starting out early on, many of those individuals that I had the honor to work with moved on to bigger platforms, ESPN, collegiate administration. And then I was asked to come on and join a collegiate administration with the recommendation. And I think many, Barbara would know, Dr. James Frank, who was the first African-American NCAA president during the interim, which was the platform that really initiated the Title IX, and that was under Dr. James Franks, who then went on to be not just the president of Lincoln University, but also the commissioner of the Southwestern Athletic Conference, which I had an opportunity to work with him.
Wow, wonderful. Okay, Barbara, you got questions for Nichelle?
I do. Good morning, Nichelle.
Good morning, Barbara.
I know you are serving on the board of trustees for Alabama A&M. Tell us about that experience and what that means to you as an alum of that university.
Well, I take it as when I first entered into the realm, and I just tell you as an experience, as the first time that I attended my meeting, and I think the first time was at the May commencement graduation. And as I sat there, I had an opportunity to look across to see the students. And I thought about me. I thought about many years ago as a graduating from that institution. Never in my wildest dreams did I ever believe that I would be sitting on that stage doing the oversight of my institution. Now, I was always active in college. I ran for student government president, was in many organizations, civic organizations, sororities, not sororities, a sorority.
Yeah.
And and so having that, it was a full circle moment. And I said to myself, out of everything that I have done and that I am doing, I thought to myself in that very moment, there is no greater honor than to serve and to make sure that the institution that I love and the institution that I'm 5 generations of continue to serve in excellence, in service, whereas service is sovereignty is our motto, to be able to influence change. And one of the things that I wanted to see facilities. I wanted to see a new athletic arena. And so far we are moving in a direction that is gaining momentum. And I'm just glad to be able to say, not only am I a graduate, but I also serve in a capacity that generations of young students will be able to look back and say, wow, look where I am. I can start here and I can go anywhere.
Yes, that's great. Thank you.
5 generations.
5 generations. Can you imagine?
Wow.
Amazing.
That's
amazing.
special. Barbara, you good?
I'm good.
Michael?
Good morning, Nichelle. Thank you for being with us this morning.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. I want to go back to this bed. You know, could you flip a quarter and make it bounce? Could you flip that quarter up in the air and make it hit the bed and bounce up?
No, but my father would always tell us, he would say, he would tell my mom, because I was a child that was always curious and active. So I would just do everything, get up. It was hard to wake me up anyway. So when I woke up, and he would come in and he was like, we got work to do on her. I was like, but it's made, right? But no, so no quarters popping up and down on my bed.
See, I asked that question because I had an uncle that was in the Marines, and when he came home, just like all of you, I was taught to make my bed up in the morning.
Yeah.
So I'd make my bed up. He come in and inspect it like I'm in the Marines and I'm 5 years old. He pull out a quarter or 50-cent piece and flip it on the bed. I'm like, what are you doing? It's supposed to bounce and stuff. If it doesn't bounce, it's not right. I'm like, man, you crazy.
Well, thank God my dad was not a Marine, but he was worse enough,
That's funny. My dad would go outside the house, right outside my bedroom, and he'd just start hammering, right? Just hitting up against it. All right, I guess I'll go and get up.
That was to get you out of bed, Thom.
Yeah, so it's like, I'll go and get up because he want me to go. We had to do work. It'd be like Saturday morning. If you want to rest,
Right.
It's like, no,
Yeah,
you
that's
got to
right.
do some work.
Yeah, that's right. That is absolutely correct.
Who's up? Barbara? Michael?
Well, I'll be serious for once here. Just want to bring some levity to the show. Nichelle, you're quite accomplished and you've done a lot of things. I wanted to ask you, what have you not done? But instead, I'll ask you, what has been your most challenging project out of all your endeavors?
There's been many challenges. And I would think, and I would, not so much. I think in sports, the challenge I would always have is making sure that that there was a place, and making sure not just there was a place for me, just making sure that I left a place that someone like me could follow. And when you are, even growing up, my father would always say, and he called me Nikki, he would say, Nikki, and I love sports because I played sports. I played with the boys because there was no women's team. A lot of times there was no women's team enough to make up a team. So I would have to play with the guys. And he would always say, well, Nikki, there's not going to be opportunities for women in sports. So I want you to find a path that you can be successful. And so when I look at it now and I hear it now, and at that time, he was right. What role models did I have growing up? And I think of one, and that was Jane Kennedy, that looked like me, right? And so the challenges, I see in entering into a world that is not what was widely represented at that time. And when I say not just with women of color, but just women, and entering into an arena where I would walk into a board meeting and the first thing an executive would say to me is, Nichelle, you take the notes. And I have the same title as everyone in this room.
Right.
I was the only female at the boardroom. And so I think I did that for 3 meetings. I stayed quiet, because I was like, didn't want to be a disruptor, right? Because I wanted to learn, I wanted to gain momentum, and I wanted to do a lot of different things. And so for me, the challenge was getting people to see me. And so when I say getting people to see me as a team member, always a person that could execute, and always someone that they can call on if they needed something, if they needed something done around the office. So I think that in that, we all have a story, right? And even in those stories, in those challenging times, it's how you are able to quickly pivot, and then making sure in those challenges you left an impression that people then say, I want to find someone just like her because she made this place better. And I continue to move forward like that. So I always look at my challenges not as my weakness, as strength, because I was able to change the perceptive about what people thought, and now what they think when the next person comes behind me. So I hope I'm making room for that. And that's kind of what my goals are: challenging and supporting women and girls to live their authentic selves and never compromising their values and beliefs to be successful.
It's interesting when you're an only, and you're in the meeting and you're the only one that looks like you. And then something is said or done, and you're sitting there thinking, okay, should I say something?
Right.
Because I'm the only one that's going to say something.
Yeah.
Right.
And and then sometimes you just say, okay, I'm going to say it.
I'm going to say it.
Right.
And most of the
You have
time
to.
it turns out good. Most of the time they're receptive to it.
Yeah, I agree. I definitely agree, Thom.
Yeah.
It is that. And I think, we have a long way to go. And I think there's challenges along the way. And people always wonder why, there's not more women, and Barbara would be more women on executive or paid boards.
Yes.
And then we have to ask ourselves, what are the women on the board saying?
Yes.
When that question comes up. So that, I always believe in advocacy, and I believe that it's important to be represented, because a lot of people may see commentators on ESPN and they think, whoa, this is a well-diverse, until you walk in the back room and look at who are making those decisions. So I think it's very important for those who are in those opportunities not to be afraid, but I do understand the fear, right? The fear of being removed in saying something. So I think it's a tightrope, right? It's a tightrope, but I also believe, and maybe it's because of being a military brat, being raised with brothers and a younger sister, that the self-confidence that I had and the fearlessness that I had, because I was raised with no fear. The fear came when I was released into this world, that people made me feel that my confidence was something negative, And so then you have to figure out, then you muck through that. And I think that is what I considered maturity and time. And then you finally get to a place in your authentic self that says, it doesn't really matter what folks think. I'm going to continue moving forward. And if moving forward means that I won't get the contracts that I deserve, then but I can sleep at night. So I know there are challenges. So I don't ever criticize, but I do know, in order to get more people and more folks that look like us, someone has to speak up. That has had the opportunity to be sitting there. They have to speak up.
Nichelle, I'd have to say I definitely agree with you, especially where confidence in someone like you, and I've had this all my life because I exude self-confidence, it's been a negative for me.
Yes.
And as a matter of fact, I've had people, even people that look like me, tell me that I was arrogant.
Absolutely.
Because I was self-confident,
Mm-hmm.
And just this past week, I had a conversation with somebody who said, I know you were really cocky in your young age because how you are now. And I looked at him and I said, I'm the same person I've always been.
Yeah.
You know, I say, for you to say that I was cocky, I say, no, I'm not cocky. I'm self-confident.
Yeah.
So they wanted to argue with me that it was one and the same. So I pulled out my phone and I asked, because I knew they weren't going to believe what I said anyway, you know, because I'm cocky. So I pulled out my phone and I said, what's the difference between cockiness and self-confidence? And I gave it to them to read, and they said, oh, well, you're right. You're self-confident. You're not cocky. So those people that have that misconception, they really don't know what they're talking about.
They don't.
Right.
You know?
But I think a lot of times people's perceptions are based on what they think they see.
What's that?
And so you start from a standpoint of they look at your skin color and they go from there. You know, that's where it starts. And then that's where they start to build their impression of you. Either your skin color or your sex or what have you. And you know, it's interesting. I always tell this story when I first joined the Letterman's Club at Auburn, and I'm the only in the room, and somebody drops the N-word. Well, I didn't really hear it because I'm talking to this guy, and whoever it is over here drops the N-word. And so when I turn around, everybody's looking at me.
Yeah.
I said, oh, shit, they must have said the N-word.
Right.
And I didn't hear it because the way they were looking, you know.
Right.
And from that point forward, they didn't invite me back.
Yeah.
Wow.
Because I guess it was, you know, they couldn't be themselves.
They felt uncomfortable. Right.
No, that's what I was going to say.
Yeah.
That's what I was going to say. They were uncomfortable. And like I said, until you, and people love to use the word disruptor, right? Until you become someone they see as a disruptor, and you were not a disruptor, but in their mind, it made them uncomfortable because they could speak freely anywhere else. And so when that was said, even though you addressed it differently, it was their uncomfortness that said, you know what, this is our club. You know, when they say our club, and you made them forget that you were you were different until something is mentioned, and that's when their conscience starts to eat at them.
You know, I have to share with you what I get the most kick out of is, you know, like Thom and all of you, I get invited to certain types of meetings and receptions and luncheons where, of course, I'm the only one with a natural tan there. And the people that do not know me, I get a real kick out of the majority of the guys there. And you know what I mean by that? They want to know, who am I? How am I in this exclusive meeting? What's my connection? And that's the first thing they come up. You know, they look at the way I'm dressed first, then they come up, hi, I'm so-and-so, who are you? And I just tell them my name and stop right there.
Yeah.
And then they want to know, well, how do you know so-and-so? No, I just know such and such. And I leave it like that. And then when we sit down and we get our formal meeting, we go around the table to talk about our background. And then I hit them with the power move. And when I finish with that, then I see the look on their face and go, oh, okay, I see why. I love that. Because they underestimate me and just think I'm a token, you know.
That happens a lot, Michael.
Right.
Yeah.
And then
Barbara knows.
I can't wait when it's time for me to speak. You know, I love to do that. So that's when I let them have it.
You kill them with that strong communication.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
And use correct grammar all the time.
All the time. I tell you, you know, I think when, you know, I always tell people that it doesn't matter what line of business you're in. You know, there is a common thread when we all four of us are talking, right? There's a common thread, and those are challenges, right? And so in those common threads, and that's why I always preach, it's so important for ownership, because, you know, in order to change that narrative, we have to change the way we look at things, you know, and we have to look more at what do we own instead of always asking, you know, asking for, either if it's employment or even it's for resources to sponsor, getting to a point of ownership where then Barbara can pick up the phone and call me and say, Nichelle, I want you to be involved in this, where it's not a organization. And so her freedom of expression can be whatever it wants to be, because she is not, not mandated to be restricted in how that communication is communicated to individuals when you have something to say, right? And that's why I think when I look at Deion Sanders, he has something to say, because he is creating his content, and that makes people afraid. And so when he looked for a job at Florida State, they said he couldn't coach. He didn't have the sources or the enough information, because he was a Pee Wee League football coach. And and so kudos to Jackson State for recognizing and seeing the potential in someone that could be great, right? And seeing that if he just had a platform, and taking something of that platform and turning into what we see now in Colorado, and even him saying to everyone, we did this at an HBCU, and still letting people know that he played in HBCU, this guy, so there's challenges in how he communicates, but then he is also making a statement that if HBCUs and I love the commissioner of the SWAC, Charles McClellan, they're listening to, taking advantage of the opportunities that are being given, because he is saying, we all know that with Doug Williams, we know that with many great John Starworth, we know that with many great athletes. Just because you started at an HBCU doesn't mean that you can't compete. And I'm just happy to see what his job at Colorado is doing for young men and coaches, now not just the athletes, but the coaches are now being looked at to be coming into the NFL, or even at different athletic conference, having an opportunity to showcase their talents. And so there's a lot of stuff that's happening that I'm excited about and excited to watch. Many people see the negative, but with everything, there is I always say with every lie, there's some truth, right? And within that truth, there is an opportunity for growth and opportunity for continued greatness. So I celebrate that. I know that when he first started coaching, nobody was watching Auburn. They were not watching Alabama. I was at the hotel on a conference meeting, and I was at the Lowe's, and everybody was in the lobby of the Lowe's waiting for the Colorado game and asking, what channel is it going to be on? I have never in my life been somewhere where everybody was searching on their phones, trying to figure out where this person was playing. And to watch the game, and to be the only game they wanted to watch on Saturday. I didn't even know what the stats were for any other conference. So right. I think that's, to me, shows, and I heard you guys talk earlier about that. Like, we hadn't heard anything about Deion. He was winning, and so now he's not winning. They're like, well, where is he? But I just wanted to say what he did for those first 3 games really changed the way media companies, it changed the way ESPN, it changed the way Fox, it changed the way to all of them on how to go after viewership, improving content, and looking for other opportunities to find revenue streaming on individual likeness. So that's just my 2 cents on that.
And that's why I think that coach from Oregon wanted to beat him so badly. Mm-hmm. He really wanted to win that game, because Deion didn't come from the coaching community. He came in another way, and he made a different way. And that's why I think that guy. And I was so glad when they got beat the other day. Oregon.
Yes.
So 2028 Los Angeles Olympics, the Olympic Games will return to Los Angeles, and I think you're involved in it
Yes.
on the board. So
Yes.
talk about that, please.
This was back in, was it 2016 or 15, when the city of when they were looking for putting together bid teams, and through Peter Uberoth, I don't know if many of you know him. He was the chair of the 1994 Olympics, and I met him through a mutual friend, and now he's someone that I call a friend. And I reached out and asked, I would like to be involved if there's an opportunity. And I think in the ongoing conversations, sometimes you got to let people know you're interested.
Yeah.
And so I didn't know where that was going to go. I just said, you know what, I will just fast forward. I would just rewind why I said that. In 2008, I had an opportunity to attend the Olympic Games in China, in Beijing. And Barbara would know, when I left the conference, I started a soccer event it was the first big soccer tournament for women. That was the third largest sporting event outside of the Olympics in the state of Alabama. And I was invited to come over as a guest. And so when I was there, I would see the folks in credentials, and they had their car. This is a little, I'm gonna tell you, this is being young, and what I saw is like they had the cars, the respect, and they would come in the lobby, the security would push them out. And I was like, one day I'm gonna be that. I'm gonna be on that committee. So fast forward real life, and I'm sitting there and I'm hearing that, they're putting together a bid team. Boston was putting together a team. LA, I knew absolutely no one in LA. Well, I knew, of course, Disney, the folks at Disney and ESPN. But when I say new folks, because a mentor of mine would say to me, John Skipper, who was the president of ESPN at the time, and I mentioned it to him too, and he was like, "Well, I can't be on the committee because my boss," and that was Bob Iger, was on there. And so I was like, "Well, who is going to help me with this?" And so I remember talking to Peter Uberoth just out of the blue about what what I wanted to do for the future. And I said it would be great to have a full circle moment to be a part of the Olympics. I've done the World Cup and now the Olympics. And then, I did my own lobbying, just trying to make sure people knew who I was. And I even lobbied on the international end to kind of push my name a little bit and say, if it comes up, bring up my name. And I was very successful. And so I received a call, an unexpected call, and the call was from Casey Wasserman, who owns the Wasserman Media Group, whose father was Lou Wasserman, that owned Paramount Studios. And he said, "Hey, Nichelle, I have an opportunity for you." And I was just thinking to myself, and I was thinking, at that time, maybe they're going to bring me in and help them put the bid together like I did with the World Cup. And he said, "I want you to serve on the board of directors. I think there's an opportunity. We need your help because Africa, you have some great relationships, and I've traveled to 36 countries in Africa." And so I got off the phone, and I really didn't know at the time what that meant, right? And I remember calling Dr. Rice, Condoleezza Rice, and telling her, I said, they put me on the board. I thought I was going to be working on putting the package together. She said, "Nichelle, do you understand what that is?" And I was like, "Well, it's on the board." She says, "No, you have an opportunity to really make a statement and to really be a part of something that, the Olympic is the whole world is going to be watching this." So I was a part of the 2028 candidature bid. And now I'm also a member of the 2028 committee. So I'm excited.
You should be.
Full circle moment. I think that's a full circle moment for me, kind of, dreaming about something and not dreaming it, but implementing it. And as I sit there, I think about me as a trustee looking at the student, once a student. And I remember being in Beijing, looking at the folks and saying, one day, man, I would like to do that. and exploring what that is, right? Because a lot of times in entrepreneurship, it's discovery. When people ask, you know, so how did you do it? I did this by myself, right? So you kind of like, who gets the credit for it? I was like, when you are out there beating the pavement and traveling to make sure people know you, now people travel to the room to know me. Those are all moments that I don't discount for 1 second, because it has made me who I am today.
I think one of the things there, one of the lessons in what you just said, is you had met Peter Uberoth, and he was commissioner of baseball too, wasn't he?
Yes. Of the MLB, yeah.
And you picked up the phone and you called him, and a lot of people would, well, I'm not gonna. I call him, right. He ain't gonna want it. I don't. Shit, I don't. They talk themselves out of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I almost talked myself out of it too. Yeah.
Yeah, but luckily you didn't.
Right. Right.
That's a great story. Michael, Barbara, you got other questions for Nichelle?
Well, I just want to say thank you, Nichelle, and we certainly appreciate you coming to visit with us today. We have one viewer that's saying, what are the thoughts on flag football in LA 2028 for the Olympics? Flag football.
Oh, there's, one of the things about the Olympics, they will be able to add, especially in LA, events, that are not considered the normal Olympic event. I do know that softball is trying to make its way back. I think flag football is definitely something that's being talked about on the administration level. And so when those things are, we are briefed on that, but I think, just like when nobody thought softball or baseball would be there, or golf, I think flag football is also one of the programs that are growing, not just domestically, but globally, because when you're adding something, you have to think about what is the world and what the federations and the growth around those games. So I have not been in no discussion around flag football, but it does make sense.
Nichelle, I just want to say thanks for joining us today. It's an honor to call you friend and my dear sorority sister. And thank you again for being here. You're just phenomenal.
Oh, you are awesome. And thank you for asking me to be involved in this call. So next time we'll talk about a little artificial intelligence, because you guys tipped on that. And I do want to say, the ACE, the women, the WNBA, and what they're doing with AJ, in the vision of Mike Davis, who also owns the Raiders, and not only just the Raiders, his vision in pushing for more minority hiring and coaching. I think he's leading by example if you take a look at what he's done.
Yes.
And also the Commissioner Goodell is also on board of making sure that representation matters. So let's keep them on a hook, and not just doing it because it looks good and sounds good. Let's just keep them on the hook, because you talked about Cowboy, the opportunities of what he's been able to do and what he can do. And so, one day we'll be in a world where no one sees the color of your skin or your gender, and hire you on the merit of what you can do and how you can execute. So that is my hope for this world. And I'm going to continue speaking up, even if it costs me, and making a trail for those to follow.
Awesome.
One last question. How many times have people called you Michelle instead of Nichelle?
All of my life. All of my life. Even my frosilic. I was taught by a German instructor, and I remember getting hit on my hand with a paddle because I didn't know the difference between an N and an M. And my mother marched down. My mother went to Spelman. She marched with Martin Luther King. She marched down to that school, grabbing my hand and my ponytails in the wind, and corrected that. And, I guess there's still that in my mind when people call me Michelle. I just, I don't say it when they, and even, when I sign up, they'll change my name. Even at the bank, you talked about Wells Fargo, which was the worst experience. I couldn't get into my account because they changed my name from an N to an M. And it insane, but all of my life. So that question, and I was,
well, I figured that.
And how I got my name, my mother was a Trekkie. So I'm named after Nichelle Nichols, who I had an opportunity to meet in 2010. And I told her, I hope I can live up to my name as half of the way that you have. And so I can say I was honored to meet her, a lovely woman, and she was thrilled to know that, and I was the first Nichelle that she had met, and she was thrilled to know that my mother named me after her, and my mother said, I didn't need a middle name because Nichelle was enough, so it's just Nichelle Gainey.
I love it.
That's great. Nichelle, thank you so much. We're really glad you came on and joined us today. It's been a lot of fun, and we wish you the best, and we'll be looking for you at the Olympics and at all the other things that you're involved in. So congrats. Thank you so much.
Well, I thank you again, and hopefully I'll be at an Auburn game soon. My nephew is a freshman there, so I will be in touch. I will be in touch with Barbara, and so maybe I'll get invited to Auburn outside of my nephew.
Sounds good. Sounds good.
All right. Thank you guys so much. This has been so much fun. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
All right.
Okay, my closing comments, or as I see it, we've got one more show in October, our Halloween show, where we're going to dress up as goons or whatever and have a lot of fun. So next week, make sure you wear your mask. So already the question of when do we turn back the clocks and, quote, fall back has popped up. So the answer is we fall back on Sunday, November the 5th. Most of us will fall back at 2 a.m. and like magic, 2 a.m. will become 1 a.m. But not everyone will fall back. Hawaii and Arizona are still the only states that do not practice daylight savings time in the United States. Standard time will last until the second Sunday of March, 2024, when daylight saving time will start again. Should we all vote on it? Well, that would probably become, like everything else, too political. And that's how I see it on this October 24th in the year 2023, and that's our show for today. I want to thank the audience. We appreciate you. I want to thank our G-List guest, Nichelle Gainey. She was wonderful. Thank our sponsor, Best Girl Inc. Thanks again to the TWT team, Barbara, Sean, Emily, Michael, and Joyce. And that's it for this October the 24th. Remember, a day without a smile is a day wasted. If you got an extra one, give one to someone else today. Enjoy yourself. Make every day count. Stay safe. Peace.